Is the slide visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So last class we were discussing about the two types of induced EMF, and over there, sorry, not actually induced EMF, electromagnetic induced EMF. Over there, we learned that there are two types of EMF which are because of this electromagnetic induction. One is the motional EMF, the other one is the induced EMF. Okay, so up to this much we have studied. Now today we'll try to complete this chapter, and the last portion that are left out are the displacement current and the Maxwell's equation. Okay, so by now we have already been acquainted with this Ampere's law, and as you all know that your Ampere's law says that the closed line integral of B vector dot dl vector is equal to mu naught times of the current that is enclosed by the Amperean path. Okay, so over there again I have told you that the above expression was only valid for steady state or steady current. Now as you can see, suppose let us say that I am having a circuit like this. This circuit is a RC charging circuit, and over here I have a uncharged capacitor. Now, while I am going to connect it to a battery, then obviously the charging current IC is going to flow because this is completely uncharged. Now, when I will start charging the current, or I will apply this source, I will connect this source of that is battery to that of this capacitor. So naturally, a charging current IC will be flowing in the circuit. But the thing is that this charging current is not a steady current, even though it is a DC current, no doubt. That means the DC currents I have told you are of multiple types. They may be rectified DC, they may be sawtooth wave, they may be square waves. So there are various forms. The only thing is that if the magnitude is not changing the polarity, then only it is known as a DC current. But the thing is that if it is a DC current and it may be time varying in nature. For example, when we were studying about this RC circuit, I have told you that initially the current is very high and slowly it starts decreasing. Similarly, the voltage across the capacitor will start building up. So these things we have already covered. So the voltage will start building up like this, and after some time it will get to a
Me, sir.
constant. Yes.
Sir, I think we have to start from motional electromotive force.
Oh, we have to start from motional EMF. Okay, okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. Oh, yeah, that means we are much behind. Okay, we have to start from here.
Yes,
Yes?
sir.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, we'll start it from here. We are much behind that other section, okay, and it is very hard to complete it. Okay, fine. So by now we have studied about this Lenz law, and I have explained you how this Lenz law, or what does it says. It says that if there is a magnet and that magnet is changing, means it is associated with a magnetic flux. Now if there is a change in the flux, it leads to induced EMF, and if that coil is a closed circuit, that means it is connected to some load, obviously some current is going to circulate through the coil, and that current is known as induced coil. So that induced coil in as a result is going to produce a induced magnetic field, and that magnetic field is the final effect, and this is obviously going to oppose the very cause of it, and the very cause of it is the magnetic field that is produced by the original magnet which was actually moving. So this was something we have studied in this Lenz law. So today we'll start with this electromagnetic induction, and by far we have studied about Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, and we have seen that an induced EMF is generated only when there is a change in the magnetic flux associated to a conductor. Now, usually what happens when there is a change in the magnetic flux linked with a coil, a time varying voltage is produced. And truly speaking, it is time varying as well as alternating in nature. Now, let me clarify that thing. So, though I have told you, may not have remembered it. So, as I have told you, your time varying means this is a time varying signal, and over here it is not changing its polarity anywhere. So this is actually a DC signal, but it is time varying. Similarly, I have a time varying alternating signal where you will have this magnitude is changing as well as the polarity is changing. So usually what happens, your electromagnetic induction leads to these types of waveform. That means it is going to produce time varying as well as AC voltage. Now, but before that, let me tell you that these types of AC voltage or your electromagnetic induction is going to lead to two types of AC waveform, or there are two process or two methods which make use of the same Faraday's law in order to generate EMF. So one of them is your motional EMF. So this motional EMF, the principle of motional EMF is basically used in all the generators, alternators, where a mechanical motion means a mechanical energy is directly converted to electrical energy. That means what we are having, we are trying to rotate the magnetic field, so there is a change in the magnetic flux, and there will be stationary conductors or stationary coils through which the magnetic flux is going to change. So in that way, it is going to generate your voltage, or it is going to generate the EMF, that is known as your motional EMF. For example, your generators. So usually what happens, practical cases I am telling you. So basically we make use of something known as an alternator to produce electric energy. So basically what we have, this is a very simplified form of a actual generator. So we have the fields over here, the poles over here, these are the magnets. Let us say this is your north pole and this is your south pole. And we have something known as a stator, over which we have the coils like this. So let us say this is one coil, this is the other coil. Usually these are known as R fetch coil, Y fetch coil and B fetch coil, because when you will go to third semester, you will study something known as a three-phase AC supply. Usually all the electrical generation in power plants are done in three-phase electrical power. So suppose this is the R terminal and this is the neutral terminal. Similarly, we have a Y terminal and this is the neutral terminal. Let us say this is the B terminal and this is the neutral terminal. R stands for red, yellow and blue. So we have this color coding in electrical engineering. So what happens, all the neutral points are connected together and they are made to move out. Similarly, your R point will be taken out like this and your Y point will be taken like this. So you have all the three phases over here, R, Y, B followed by the neutral. So this is how actually the generator usually is connected in our power plants. And when what happens, when there is a mechanical motion, for example in hydropower plants we have hydro turbines. So the flow of water from the dam is going to rotate something known as a prime mover. That prime mover is going to rotate this magnet. So this is the magnet, this is a salient pole type construction, so no need of going into details of that. So this is going to rotate this magnet. So when it is going to rotate the magnet, so this magnetic field lines which are in this manner, when they starts rotating in this direction, obviously it is going to cut all these coils simultaneously. So naturally there is a change in flux in all of these coils, and in this way the EMF is produced. Now over here, as I told you, that we are making use of motion. Okay, some movement is taking place in order to generate the electricity. Therefore it is known as motional EMF. The next one is the induced EMF. Very simple thing. Suppose in case of transformers, usually what happens, we have a device known as transformer. You people must have heard about it, done some problems on that on your plus 2 syllabus. So what basically we have a coil over here, and to this coil we always give a AC supply. Now let us say the use of transformer is to change the voltage level. That means it can either increase the voltage or it can decrease the voltage. Suppose let us say, and over here I am having two coils. One is the primary coil, the other one is the secondary coil. So these are owned over a iron core so that the magnetic flux can move on this coil, on this core. Now, when you start applying a alternating current, obviously an alternating current is going to flow through this primary coil because this is a closed circuit. So when this alternating current is going to flow, naturally it is going to produce a alternating flux, magnetic flux. Magnetic flux means it is a changing magnetic flux. That means it is time varying. So in that way, that magnetic flux is also going to link this coil which is placed near to it on the other side of the core. So naturally what is happening? This magnetic flux, the time varying magnetic flux is created by the primary coil, and this is also passing through the secondary coil. That means the secondary coil is being introduced to a changing magnetic field. So in that way, an EMF is going to be generated over here. So if you will connect a load over here, it is also going to drive that load. So this is known as your induced EMF, and this particular thing finds a lot of application in transformers, auto transformers. There are multiple number of transformers, so they all make use of this induced EMF for their working. And let me tell you another thing, induced EMF is also having another name known as transformational EMF. So basically electrical students and electrical people, they don't call it as induced EMF, rather they call it as transformational EMF. But since you are studying physics, so let us keep the name as induced EMF. So ultimately we come to the idea that whenever we can use Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction to generate time varying AC voltage, and that AC voltage are of two types. One is your motional EMF, where we make use of a movement to generate electricity. The other one is a induced EMF, where we make use of this magnetic flux to induce a induced voltage in a nearby coil. So these are the two types. Let us now throw some light into this motional EMF and transformational EMF in detail. So let's now go for this electromotive force. Okay, motional electro EMF or motional electromotive force. So over here we will concentrate on two types of generators. One is a very simple one, that is isolated moving rod moving in an uniform electric field, a magnetic field. The other one is having a construction like this. Now let us first concentrate on an isolated moving conductor inside a uniform magnetic field. That means we will move an isolated straight conductor of length L inside a uniform magnetic field. If we are going to do that, what is going to happen, and whether an voltage will be induced across the terminals of the conductor or not. Hello? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So basically what you can see over here, I have a isolated conductor with the ends as A and B, and it is having a length of L. Now as you can see, the magnetic field is uniform and it is directed into the screen. So now when I will start moving this conductor inside this magnetic field at some constant velocity of V, let us say. Now you all know that whenever we are going to move a conductor inside a magnetic field, inside the conductor we have this positive and negative charges. Okay. Now for the timing, let us consider that there is a positive charge. We will assume only the moment of positive charge. We very well know that positive charges don't move, but we can easily apply the concept to positive charge as well. So over here, let us say I am having a positive charge Q, and when I will start moving this positive charge inside this uniform magnetic field at a constant velocity of V, then naturally we have already learned that it is going to, this positive charge is going to experience a magnetic force. And what is the value of this magnetic force? It is equal to Q times the cross product of the velocity and the magnetic field. So the force that is going to act on this particular positive charge inside the conductor is given by F V vector is equal to Q times of V vector cross B vector. Now, obviously, if we will apply a right hand thumbs rule, that means we will point all the four fingers of our right hand along the direction of your V vector and curl it towards your B vector. Then we are seeing that your thumb is pointing upwards. That means the force, magnetic force on this charge Q is going to act on the towards upwards. So naturally, what will happen? This positive charge will try to move towards the end A. Now similarly over here we will have a negative charge and that negative charge will move towards the end B. So if we will continue moving this conductor inside this magnetic field at a constant velocity, then obviously all the positive and negative charges which were previously combined or which are previously attached to each other due to the electrostatic force of attraction, they are now going to be separated. Now when they are separated, all the positive charges will move towards the end A and all the negative charges will move towards the end B. So we have already discussed about all this thing. Now I am repeating it. So all the positive charges will accumulate on the upper side and all the negative charges, that is the electrons, will be collected on the bottom side of this conductor. So in this way, what is going to happen? So let us see if all the positive and negative charges are separated, what is going to happen? So let us say this is the conductor and all the positive charges have been separated from their corresponding negative charges and they have dumped themselves on one side. So this is the side A and this is your side B, let us say. So on this side all the negative charges or electrons have accumulated. Now obviously this one will behave as the positive terminal and this one will behave as the negative terminal. But at the same time, one important thing is taking place, that is, since the positive and negative charges have separated, so there will be an electric field E vector which is going to be directed from the positive charges to the negative charges on the other side. Now in this way, if we will see, then there are two forces that are going to act now. First, the force of magnetic force, which has already separated the positive charges from the negative charges and have dumped them on either side of the conductor. Similarly, when they are separated, it leads to an electric field, and what this electric field is going to do? It is going to create a force known as the force due to electrostatics, that is your Fe. And we all know that Fe is nothing but the charge times of E vector. Okay, so in this way, at one position we will see that and there is an equilibrium condition. That means when all the positive and negative charges are separated and the conductor is still moving inside the magnetic field. So under this condition, at equilibrium, you can see the magnitude of your electric force and your magnetic force both are going to be same, but their directions are completely opposite to each other. That means your Fe vector and Fb vector will have the same magnitude, but their direction of or their force direction is just opposite to each other. So in that way, if we will go for the equilibrium position, we will see that the magnitude of the magnetic force and the electric force, they are going to be same. So naturally, in place of the magnitude of electric force, if I write it as QE, then in place of your magnetic force, I can write it as QVB. These two things we have already studied. So naturally over here, as you can see, Q is present on both sides. So we can equate this as the electric field is equal to the velocity times your B vector. And believe me, this is a very nice equation, very good equation. Why it is so? It is because this one is showing the relationship between your time varying electric field and time varying magnetic field. That means over here you can see when the magnetic field is changing. Why the magnetic field is changing? Even though I am telling that the magnetic field is constant, it is because I have multiplied a V over here. So when something is multiplied with V, it clearly shows that it is changing with respect to time. So when VB, that means this is a time varying magnetic field is nothing but it is also creating an electric field. So in this way we can also prove that a time varying magnetic field produces an electric field, and a time varying electric field will produce a magnetic field. So from this, let us try to find out if this is a EMF source. Now the purpose of any EMF source is to develop a voltage across the load. So voltage is something we require in order to drive the load. So what is the relationship between your electric field and your voltage? It is very simple. The potential difference between the two ends of the conductor, that is VAB, is equal to the electric field times of L. This thing we have already studied in the chapter on electric field. If you have not remembered, please go through those and you will see all these relationships. So ultimately we came to know that the potential difference that is going to be created across this conductor when it is moving inside a uniform magnetic field at a constant velocity v is equal to the electric field that is developed inside the conductor because of the separation of the positive and negative charges multiplied with the length of the conductor. So ultimately this equation can be written in this way as VAB is equal to E vector dot DL vector. Why I have written it like this? Because E is a vector quantity and L is also a vector quantity. And as you can see, both E and L vector both are in the same direction or anti-parallel direction. For example, suppose I will take L vector to be in this direction, and the L vector is in this direction as well as your E vector is in the same direction. And in both the cases you can see that E vector, the L vector and cos 0 degree is equal to EL. Similarly, if I am going to take L in this direction, then also there is no problem because it is EL cos 180 degree. And even under this condition also you are going to get it as minus. But since I have chosen it in the direction bottom wise, therefore we are telling that it is going to be EL. So whatever be the case, so ultimately we come to the conclusion that your VAB, that is the potential difference that will be present across the, or that will be generated by a motional EMF source, is equal to V times your BL. Okay. Is there any doubt? Anyone with any sort of doubt? Okay, fine. So let us move on to the other case. So in this case, we will study, or we have just made some little modification. So what is that modification? So over here, I am having the same conductor, same isolated conductor, but now this conductor is moving over a U-shaped conductor. Now, as you can see, this is a U-shaped conductor, and over this isolated conductor is sliding. Okay, so it can slide in either direction. I am sliding it from left to right, and once it reaches the end, then we can also pull it in the other direction. But whenever we are pulling it, or whenever there is a movement of this isolated conductor running or sliding over this U conductor, there is a generation of EMF. Now let us do one thing. Why I have chosen this type of thing, let me tell you. Now obviously the purpose of generating EMF is to drive some load, or by driving some load we are doing some useful work. Now for example, let us say I am having this conductor, U-shaped conductor, well and good. Now this U-shaped conductor is connected, and there is a break in this U-shaped conductor, and over here let me connect a tungsten filament bulb. So what I have to do is that if at all I am going to generate EMF, let us do some work by generating that EMF. Now what I will do, let us say I will have this isolated conductor. Suppose let us say this is the isolated conductor over here. And this isolated conductor can easily slide on this two number of conductors. So this is the first conductor, this is the second conductor, and if I'll connect this over here, then it is forming a U-shaped conductor. But in order to make you understand, what I have done is that I have cut this one and connected two wires to a bulb. Now let us see what is going to happen. Now all of them, all this entire arrangement, it kept inside a uniform magnetic field like this. Okay, so inside this uniform magnetic field, I have this use C-shaped conductor and this isolated conductor. Both are in contact with each other, and this I-shaped conductor is actually sliding. And suppose, let us say, I will pull this conductor in this direction at a constant velocity of v. So right now, just before this, we have learned that when I am going to pull it in this direction, obviously it is going to generate a voltage. Okay, and this voltage, when connected across a load, is going to drive the load and do some useful work. Now, obviously, the same thing is going to happen. So when I will move this one, this will be your potential, this will be a point A and this is your point B. So the potential between difference between them is VAB, and this VAB is actually connected across this load. So when I will start moving it, then this bulb is going to glow. So once this conductor reaches the end point, then I will move it in the other direction, that is from right to left. In that way also, if I will move it at a velocity of V, then also the bulb is going to glow. So is this a case of motional EMF? Of course, it is a case of motional EMF. Why? Because here again, we are actually moving this conductor AB over this sliding conductor, U-shaped conductor, and in this way, we are actually generating the EMF. Now, let us see whether it is generating the EMF or not. Let us see whether the equations are equally applicable or not. Okay, let us see. Now we know Faraday's law says E is equal to minus d phi b by dt. Well and good, this we have already learned. Now what is field is a constant. So let us take it outside this differential term. Now we are left with dA by dt. Now let us just have a look at this figure once again. Now over here, let us say dA means that is a differential change in the area. Now previously the conductor was over here, and in time dt, I have moved this conductor by a distance of v into dt, because velocity into time is equal to the distance covered. Now as you can see, this is the length of the conductor and this is the breadth or distance by which the conductor has moved. So over here the length is constant, but the breadth or the width is changing. That means the area that is covered is going to change. So I can write it as dA is equal to length, that is your L, and breadth. Breadth is nothing but v into dt. So over here in this equation I have written it like this. Now if we will rearrange these terms as dA by dt, then what I am going to get is v dt is getting as L into V. Now over here minus B is outside and I have this term dA by dt. So I will put it over here in place of dA by dt. I will put this L into V. So if I will do that, then ultimately I am going to get E is equal to VL. So this is what we have already got in the previous equation. This clearly shows that all the types of motional EMF or the EMF generated by the motion of any conductor is going to have the same type of expression. Whether it is an isolated conductor or whether it is a conductor sliding over this U-shaped conductor, doesn't matter. If there is motion, the expression for motional EMF is going to be the same. So ultimately E is equal to VBL in this case. It was also VBBL in the previous case. So ultimately we come to know that we can write the expression of this motional EMF as E is equal to VBL. Now in this particular circuit, as you can see, it is a closed circuit. So naturally if it is a closed circuit, then a current is going to flow, and that induced current I is nothing but VAB by R. So if I will do that, then we are going to get the value of induced EMF as VBL divided by R. Next, So ultimately, let us try to generalize the form of motional EMF. So whenever there is a motion, okay, fine, till now we have been dealing with only a uniform magnetic field. We were dealing with straight conductors, but now in practical cases, particularly the engineering, electrical engineering people, they don't make use of all these types of generator. These are completely hypothetical generator. These generators are having almost 1 or 2% efficiency. So we never make use of these types of construction to generate electricity. So what we actually make is that we make use of these types of generators. So I have shown you such a type of generator. So we have the magnetic field like this. So the north pole will be over here. Then we have another south pole over here. So this is the south pole. Then again we have the north pole over here. So this is how actually the magnets or the magnetic field arrangement is done. Even these types are known as salient pole types of alternator, and even these types of constructions are nowadays obsolete. They are no more used. They are only used in hydropower plants. Okay, so this is your south pole. So what happens in these types of construction, the magnetic field, as you can see, is not a straight line, rather it is going to be like this. So the magnetic field will look something like this. So it will start from the north pole, end at the south pole. So these are the magnetic field lines. Whereas in the previous cases, you can see the magnetic field lines are uniform, straight, and they are moving into the screen. Whereas usually when, as per our electrical engineering, we don't make use of those types of generator. Rather, the field system is something like this. That means the magnetic field is actually not a uniform one, even though the magnitude is constant, but they may not be uniform. Similarly, the length of the conductors, they may not be straight lines. They may be coils. So naturally, those equations cannot fit into these types of practical generators. For that only, we have to write a generalized form of motional EMF. That means we have to write a equation or an expression of this induced EMF, motionally induced EMF, in such a way that it is going to fit to all types of generator construction. So for that, what we have done is that we have written that dE is equal to V vector. Okay, so we have already got the derivation from previous. We have got the derivation that E is equal to V times that is the velocity times, sorry, V times V cross B vector, or simply we have got E is equal to VBL. Okay, now out of this, all of them are vector quantities. Well and good. So if all of them are vector quantities, but ultimately the result, that is your induced EMF, is a scalar quantity. So how we are going to fit all this thing such that everybody is going to result in a scalar product. For that, as we all know that V vector cross B vector. Okay, so V vector cross B vector is actually a vector. Dot multiplied with dl vector is going to give you a scalar quantity. So this is basically a scalar triple product. So if we are going to generalize the equation of motional EMF, then we can very well write it as E is equal to closed line integral. Okay, closed line integral, it may be closed, it may not be closed, doesn't matter. But if, let us say, I am having a coil like this, if I am having a coil like this surrounding these magnets, so naturally in this case, it is your dl is going to be a closed line integral, because it is actually basically the mean path is a circle. So this equation becomes E is equal to closed line integral of V vector cross B vector dot times dl vector. So this is the most generalized form of your motional EMF. Okay. So from where we have got this, we have actually derived it from your Faraday's law. So ultimately we can say that your E is equal to closed integral V vector cross B vector dot dl vector is also equal to minus d phi b by dt. So this is your generalized form of motional EMF. Okay. Please note one important points. Please note over this equation, you can see there is a left hand side and there is a right hand side. And when there is a left on this left hand side is particularly suitable for solving problems where you are going to have a moving conductor. Whereas if you are having stationary conductors, that means in case of induced EMF that we will learn just in a short while, over there we will see that the coils or the conductors are absolutely stationary in nature. They are not at all moving. So in that case, we will make use of this right hand side of this generalized equation to solve the problems. But at least please be very sure all of them are actually derived from your Faraday's law. Is there any doubt in this section? Okay, fine. Now let us move on to the other type of EMF, that is your induced EMF. Actually, truly speaking, this is your syllabus is based on a physics book. So physics people, they used to tell it as induced EMF, but the true name is actually transformational EMF. Okay, so almost all the electrical books related to electrical machines, those who are dealing with this conductor means generators, they used to mention this as transformational EMF. So, but still, since you are going to stick to this book, we will use the word induced EMF. Okay, so what is the big deal in this? The big deal is that both the conductors are going to be stationary. There is no moving part, no moving coil, no moving magnetic field, nothing. But there is a changing magnetic field. Just have a look over here. Okay, let me give an idea. So basically, let us say you are having a coil over here. Okay, so this coil is energized from an AC source. So if it is connected to an AC source, what is going to happen? Since it is a closed circuit, then obviously an AC current is going to flow. So if an AC current is going to flow, then the flux magnetic field that is created by this particular coil is also going to be alternating in nature. That means at one point of time this is going to be a north pole and this is going to be a south pole. In the second half cycle, this one becomes south pole and this one becomes north pole. And moreover, the magnitude is also going to vary sinusoidally. Why it is so? Because the input current is like this. Okay. In the previous case, we were using a DC current, that is a steady current. So naturally, north and south pole remains forever till you are applying the DC current. But over here, an AC current is flowing, and as you can see, the AC current is cyclically changing its polarity. So naturally, the north and south pole, they are also going to vary over each half cycle. Now, what is the big deal in this case? Now you see this magnetic field is actually spreading, or it is creating a magnetic field around the coil itself. Now let us say I will bring another coil near to it. I'll bring another coil near to it. So I will place another coil over here, or I may place another coil above this one with proper insulation, or anywhere, or over here, doesn't matter. But if it is placed near to it, then obviously what is going to happen? The magnetic field that is created by the first coil, which is indicated in blue color, is also going to link to the other coil that is indicated in red color. So in this way, even though this coil, this red color coil is stationary in nature, but it is subjected to a varying magnetic field because of the alternating current. And due to this, when this coil is linked with a varying magnetic field, so it is very natural that an EMF will be induced. And this UMF is actually known as induced EMF or transformational EMF. Okay. In the previous case, you have seen in both the cases, we are actually making a motion, or there is a movement of the conductor which is actually generating the EMF. But over here, there are two stationary conductors, but in one of the conductors, you are changing the magnetic field by applying a changing current or time varying current. So naturally, the coil which is near to it, very near to it, is also subjected to the same magnetic variation. magnetic field variation, and because of that only we are going to get a EMF across the other coil. So in this diagram, as you can see in the diagram over here, you can see that this is actually nothing but a core, and over this core in the black color coil is connected to an AC supply. So in case of AC supply, your I is changing with respect to time, therefore it is written as di by dt. Now what happens over this coil, I have another coil or a loop, and this loop is connected to a galvanometer. Actually it should not be connected to a galvanometer because the galvanometer will show zero reading, because this is a varying one, so it is better to give it a voltmeter over here. So you will see that for the first half cycle it is giving some value like this, in the other half cycle it will give you a value in this other direction. Okay, but the variation will be so fast that you just cannot see it. So what it is going to give is that it is going to give you the RMS value. So all these RMS value, other things we will study in the next chapter, that is chapter number 31. Okay, for the timing we come to the conclusion that this coil which is surrounding the first coil is also going to be subjected to the varying magnetic field created by this coil, and therefore an EMF will be also induced across this secondary coil. So now let us see what is the expression for the induced EMF in case of this one. Okay, but over here also we will make use of your Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction in order to understand the concept. Okay, so as I have told you that E is equal to minus d phi b by dt. This is your Faraday's law, and this phi b, as you know, is nothing but it is B into A. Okay, now already I have taught you what is this B in case of a solenoid or a coil. So in that case your B is given by mu 0 Ni into A. So over here, since there is a change in the field, so over here I will write it as minus d phi. In place of this B, I will write this one mu 0 Ni, and A is remains over here divided by dt. So ultimately mu 0 n and A, all of them are constant. Why? Because mu 0 itself is a constant, equal to 4 pi into 10 to the minus 7. Well and good. Next, n. What is your small n? Small n is nothing but the total number of turns per unit length. Just imagine that if the length of this coil, because as you can see in practical coils, if you will see anywhere, you will see that the coils are made out of thin wires and they use a very lots and lots number of turns. Okay, that means within a length of 2 centimeter, they may be having 300 or 400 number of turns. So it is actually not possible on our part to represent the total number of turns. So for that, what we make use of is we make use of a term small n, which is nothing but the total number of turns, actual number of turns divided by the length of the conductor. So your n is also a constant. So if we will do this, then mu 0 n and A is nothing but the area of the core over which it is rolled. So all of them are constant and therefore are outside. Now we are left with only di by dt. So your di by dt is a varying factor because your AC is applied, and in case of AC the current is going to be sinusoidally varying. So ultimately the equation says that your induced EMF expression is equal to E is equal to minus mu 0 Na di by dt. So over here there is no use of any velocity term, nothing, because this is a stationary induced EMF. Is there any doubt? Please be free to ask me, because I myself know that I am going at a very faster pace. So if you are having any doubt, please clear it.
Sir, in wireless charger, this concept is used or another concept?
Yes, of course, this concept is used to some extent, but it is purely not based on this. Actually, what happens in case of wireless charging, you actually generate electromagnetic waves. And actually the thing is wireless charging is something which is confined to a very small distance. Hardly it will be around 5 to 6 centimeter. So basically what you are going to do, you are going to generate a electromagnetic field, and inside the field there will be a transmitter which is generating the electromagnetic waves, and there will be a receiver which will be converting this electromagnetic waves into a very very feeble electric current, and this electric current is actually going to charge your mobile or whatever wireless charging gadget you have. So the concept is actually not directly based on this. Okay, in the transmitter this is best, but sorry, in the receiver this equation may be valid, but in the receiver end some other equations are required. And moreover, if you are transmitting, then there may be other equipments which can also track this wireless power and charge themselves. But you suppose you have a let us say your tablet and a mobile phone, and you want to charge your mobile phone, and both of your mobile phone as well as your tablet, they are equipped with wireless charging. Then if you want to charge them, what you have to do, both of them can be charged. For that purpose it should be synchronized to a particular frequency. That means you are generating electromagnetic waves at a particular frequency. The receiver must acknowledge the frequency, so that when the frequency matches, there will be something known as resonance. We'll study about that. That resonance will circulate a very large current, and this current is going to charge up your mobile phone or your tablet, as the case may be. And moreover, this technology is actually confined nowadays. The technology is quite popular, but the thing is that, as you can see, you have to place the portable equipment over a particular place. Okay, that means there will be a pad known as a receiver pad over which you have to place your mobile phone so that it gets charged. It is because that pad itself is going to be synchronized to the particular frequency of the electromagnetic wave that the transmitter is sending. So that is quite a different concept. Anything else? Okay, so let us now move on. Okay, so ultimately we come to the conclusion that your two coils which are placed very near to each other are actually going to have a induced EMF. So in one of the coil, that is the primary coil, you are giving the supply, and in the secondary coil you are getting the induced EMF. Now let us try to find out what is the magnetic field, that, because as I told you, when there is a time varying magnetic field, there is a production of electric field. So in this case also, as you can see, there is a time varying magnetic field, because clearly I have written it as d phi b by dt. Now obviously if this is the case, is there any production of electric field? Of course there is a production of electric field. Remember, if electric field is not created, then current cannot flow. But I have shown you that in the outer or the secondary loop, if I am going to connect a load, it is going to run because an EMF is available. It is a closed circuit, and therefore a current is going to flow. Now how the current is going to flow? It is because of the electric field. So ultimately I can say that there is some sort of relationship between your time varying magnetic field and the electric field that it is creating. So in the previous case we have learnt it as B is equal E vector is equal to V times your B. Since B is a velocity, so that means your B was changing. Now let us see whether that same relationship, or there is any relationship between electric field and your magnetic field even in case of induced EMF or not. Okay, for that let us write the equation once again. So E is equal to closed line integral of E vector dot dl vector is equal to minus d phi b by dt. Well and good. Now let us take the E outside. So if I will take the E outside and integrate this dl vector, that means in case of this, dl vector is nothing but, so what is dl vector? Let us take a very small length of the secondary coil. So let us take a small length of this secondary coil, and let us say this is your dl dash. So if this secondary coil is having a radius of small r, then obviously if I will integrate it over the entire length, it is nothing but 2 pi r. That is the radius of the secondary coil or the loop. So E is equal to 2 pi r times of E vector, or E we can write. So this is equal to this much. So ultimately your E is nothing but, with some mathematical manipulation we can conclude that your electric field is equal to 1 by 2 pi r times the magnitude of the change in the magnetic field. So this relationship is also clearly showing us that a time varying magnetic field is always accompanied with an electric field. In the previous case, we were seeing the same thing. Over here, we were seeing that your E is equal to, where is, okay, your E is equal to QB. Sorry, E is equal to V into E. Sorry, B. That means when there is a change in the magnetic, because V into B is nothing but the change in the magnetic field. Simply, if you will see B, it is not a changing magnetic field. But when B is multiplied with it, then it clearly shows that it is a time varying magnetic field. So this is equal to your electric field. So this relationship is also pointing to the fact that whenever there is a change in the magnetic field, there is a change or production of electric field. Now the same thing is also happening over here even in case of induced EMF. So over here also we can see that E vector is 1 by 2 pi r times the change in the magnitude of your magnetic field. So in this way we can conclude it. Now there is another very interesting thing over here. So when we were studying about this electrostatic field, now remember this is not an electrostatic field, this is a time varying electric field. So this E and the E that you have studied in your electric field, electrostatic field, they are having some differences. That E was having a constant magnitude for time infinite, whereas this E, which is indicating the electric field, is actually a time varying electric field. That means its magnitude is changing with respect to time. Now the major difference between these two types of electric field is very simple. In the electrostatic field, over there we have learned something known as a conservative electric field. That means, suppose, let me point it out clearly. Suppose this is your electrostatic field and this is your time varying electric field. Please listen all these things very clearly. So this is your electrostatic field and this is your time varying electric field. In both the cases, you are using the same letter E vector to represent the electric field. Well and good, there is no problem. But do they have any difference? They have a lots and lots of difference. I will only point out the most important one. Now, this electric field is a conservative electric field, whereas this one is a non-conservative electric field. What does that mean? That means in this type of field, if I will take a charge from point A to the point B, then to 0. So this thing we have already studied. This is known as the fundamental of your electrostatic field, and this is a conservative electric field. That means over here, if you are taking a charge from one point to the other, it is absolutely independent of the path taken. But if you are taking the particle back to the starting point, then the total work done is 0. But in case of your this time varying electric field, the concept is absolutely not going to be valid. That means if I am going to move a charge from the point A to B in this path, the work done will be different from the work that is done when I am moving it through this path. So here it is W1, here it is also W2, and W1 is not equal to W2. Number one difference. Obviously, in that case, if I take the particle back to this point, then the total work done is also not equal to 0. Okay, so there is a major difference between these two fields. One of them is a conservative field, the other one is a non-conservative field. Conservative field, it is electrostatic. Whatever path you are taking, work done will be same. And if you return to the starting point, the work done is 0. Time varying electric field, the same symbol, but the thing is that it is a non-conservative electric field, okay, or rather we'll say non-electrostatic field. So in that case, if we are moving a particle from point A to B, it is not at all independent of the path taken, number one. Number two, if we will take a particle to one point and return back to the starting point, the work done is not equal to zero. So this is the major difference between the two types of field. So today I have never remember. Okay, Monday was a holiday, that's why we have not completed. But in the other section, I am at the verge of completion of this chapter. Okay, that's well and good, no problem. So tomorrow we are having actually 3 hours of class. 1 hour is our normal class. Over there, I will teach this the rest of the portion, displacement current, this Maxwell's equation, all these things. And in the lab class, I will also take the theory. So please have your pen, pencil, paper, calculator, everything ready. And I will not do the problems because problem is actually taking a lot of time. I will give the solution of the problems to you in the slides, maybe after a couple of days, because I have not also written all this problem. So I will take 1 or 2 days. So maybe by Friday evening or Saturday you will get this chapter. So we'll start directly with chapter 30. So tomorrow, most probably in the lab class, I will start with chapter number 30. You have to go through the video that I have prepared because time is running out and I don't have any other way I can help you out. So we have to move by this course. So I'll play the video. Please go through the video very meticulously. Religiously see each and every slide, that means every part of the video. Try to understand it because I may not be able to take that class through this PowerPoint presentation. But I feel that the next chapter, that is the chapter on this inductance, is not that hard. You can understand it from the video. But chapter number 31 is very, very, very important. It is the only chapter from where you will at least get 15 to 20 marks question. That is on alternating current. And I feel I will have to take a lot of time to teach that particular chapter in detail. So rather what I will do, I will play the video for chapter number 30. Go through it. I will disperse the video to you over the mail. You go through it, do your problems. If you are having any problem, most welcome, I'll clear it. But I cannot teach that through PowerPoint presentation mode. So I'll directly move on to chapter number 31, that is your alternating current. I'll finish that chapter, and once I finish, I will just start with chapter number 32, that is electromagnetic waves. That is another critical chapter, but the course is very limited, only 2 sections are required. So hardly I will take 1 or 2 hours to complete, not 1 or 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to complete that in total. So in that way I have planned. So please be prepared to learn yourself from the video that I will play. Of course, I will be over here. If you are having any doubt, you can chat with me and I will stop the video over there and clear it over there itself. Okay. So you have to cooperate with me. I have to cooperate with you. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, sir, or yes, sir? I can have my
Yes,
doubt.
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you all.
Sir,
Thank you. Yes.
sir, in lab exam, what type of questions will come?
Hey, I also don't know about the lab.
Okay, sir.
And I also haven't talked to the coordinator because coordinator says father has expired and I don't feel it's the right time to discuss all this thing. Maybe after the 11th day of the ritual, I will talk to him.
Okay,
So
sir.
don't worry about that. Have you got any information regarding this lab and all this schedule?
Yes, sir. It is on the same day as the theory exam.
Uh,
Lab
okay.
exam also.
Okay, I will talk to him. And if possible, I will also give you a set of questions that might be asked for the lab. We'll discuss about it if time permits. Okay. So my first target is to complete the course in full. And once I have complete, I can dedicate all my time to clear your doubts, not only in lab, not only in electrical engineering, anything you want to ask. Okay. For the time being, let us concentrate only on our course, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you all. Thank you all.